Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Melissa and I do true crime videos. The whole month of September, September, we're going to be talking about serial killers, and on Friday upload and talk about missing children. Today we have one of those serial killers that we don't, still to the day, don't know who he is, and I'm the type of person that I don't like knowing who a person is. Like, I don't like mystery. Would we ever know who this person is? I hope so. I really do. If you don't know who I'm talking about, I'm talking about the Zodiac serial killer. We're just gonna talk about him. I have been wanting to talk about him since I started my YouTube channel. So I want to see if y'all have any ideas. Who do you think it is? Because I do not know. So let's go ahead, and before I forget, go ahead and subscribe and hit that bell so you can notify every time I upload. I'm sorry about my hair, guys. I colored my hair. Thank you to one of my friends who did an amazing job. I was gonna straighten it before I uploaded, but I have to wait till later. But you'll see it Friday, hopefully, if I have it down. But let's go ahead and get started with this video. So the Zodiac Killer is a subdomain of an undefined serial killer who operated in North Carolina in the late 1960s. The case has been described as the most famous unsolved murder case in American history, unsolved becoming a fixture of popular culture and inspiration amateur detectives to attempt to resolve it. The Zodiac murders five known victims in the San Francisco Bay Area between December of 1968 and October of 1969, operating in rural, urban, and suburban settings. He targeted young couples and a lone male cab driver, and his known attacks took place in Vincent Vehelo, in incorporated Nap Country in the city of San Francisco. Prior to of his attempt, victims survived. The Zodiac himself claimed to have murdered 37 victims and has been linked to several other court cases in some in South Carolina or outside the state. The Zodiac originated in the name himself in the series of taunting letters and cards that he mailed to regenerate newspapers threatening killing, spree, and bombings if they were not printed. Some of the letters include capograms or cipherhashers, in which the killer claimed that he was collecting his victims as slaves for the afterlife. Of the four ciphers he produced, two remain unsolved and one was cracked only in 2020. While many theories regarding his identity of the killer had been suggested, the only suspect authorities ever publicly named was Arthur Lee Helen, a former elementary school teacher and the convicted sex offender who died in 1992. Although the Zodiac ceased reading communications around 1974, the unusual nature of the case led to international interest and has sustained throughout the years. The San Francisco Police Department marked the case inactive and in April 2004, but reopened it at some point prior in 2007. The case almost remains open in the city of the Vallejo as well as in Napa County and Solano County. The California Department of Justice has maintained an open case file in the Zodiac murder since 1969. Although the Zodiac claims in the letters to newspapers to commit 37 murders, investigators agreed only 7 confirmed victims, 2 of whom survived. They are David Arthur Fred, 17, Betty Lou Jensen, 60, shot and killed in December 20 of 1968, Lake Harmon Road within the city limits of Bernice, Michael Rentolo Maguna, 19, Darlene Elizabeth Fleming, 22, shot on July 4th of 1969 in the parking lot of a Blue Rock Spring Park in Vallejo. While Mangood survived the attack, Furman was pronounced dead on arrival at Kaiser Foundation Hospital. Baring Gavin Halton, 20, and Ceciliana Anna Schaefer, 22, stabbed on December 27th of 1969 at Lake Bayers in Napa County. Harmon survived 8 stab wounds to the back, but Schaefer died as a result of her injuries on September 29th of 1969. Paul Lee Stain, 29, shot and killed on October 11th of 1969 in the Presidio Heights, a neighborhood in San Francisco. The first murders widely attributed to the Zodiac Killer was shooting of high school students Betty Lou and David on December 20th, 1968 in Lake Carmen Road, just inside Benicia city limits. The couple were on their first date and planned to attend a Christmas concert at Hogan High School, but about 3 blocks from Jesse's home. They instead visited a friend before stopping to a local restaurant and then driving out to Lake Carmen Road at about 10:15 p.m. Faraday Park, his mother Rambert, and Grayville Hunt turned out, which was a well-known lover's lane. Shortly after 11 p.m., their bodies were found by Stella, who lived in nearly the Solomon County Sheriff's Department, investigated the crime, but no leads developed. A utilizing available forensics data, Robert postulated that another car pulled into the turnout just prior to 11 p.m. and parked beside the couple. The killer may have then exited the second car and walked towards the ramble, possibly ordering the couple out of it. It appeared that Jason had exit the car first, but then Freda was halfway out. The killer shot him in the head. The killer then shot James 5 times in the back as she fled. Her body was found 28 feet from the car. The killer drove off. Just before midnight on July 14th of 1969, Darlena and Michael drove into the Blue Rock Spring Park in Vallejo, 4 miles, a 6.4 kilometer from the Lake Carmen Road murder site, and parked while the couple sat in a ferry car. At a second car drove into the lot and parked alongside them, but almost immediately drove away. Returning about 10 minutes later, the second car parked behind them. The driver of the second car then exited the couple, approaching the passenger side door at Framing's car, carrying a flashlight. And a 9mm Luger, the killer directed the flashlight into Morgan's and Fanny's eyes before shooting at them firing 5 times. Both victims were hit, and several bullets had passed through Megun and into Fermi. The killer walked away from the car upon hearing Megu's mounting return and shot each victim twice more before driving off. On July 5th of 1969 at 12:40 a.m., a man phoned the Vallejo Police Department to report a claimed responsibility for the attack. The caller also took credit for the murder of Jensen and Friday 6.5 months earlier. Police traced the call to a phone booth at gas station at Spring Road in Tulema, located about 3/10 of a mile from Fermi's home, only a few blocks from the Vallejo Police Department. Fermi was pronounced dead at the hospital. Magoo survived the attack despite him being shot in the face, neck, and chest. Magoo describes the attacker as 26 to 30 years old, 195 to 200 pounds, or possibly even more, 5 foot 8 inches, white male with short light brown curly hair. On August 1st of 1969, 3 letters prepared by the killer was received at the Vallejo Times-Herald, the San Francisco Chronicle, and the San Francisco Examiner. The nearly indicated letters subsequently described by a psychiatrist to have been written by someone you would expect to be borderline and isolated, took credit for the shooting at Lake Carmen Road in Blue Rock Spring. Each letter also included 1/3 of 408 symbol photogram, which the killer claimed contained his identity. The killer demanded they be printed on each paper's front page, or he would curse around all weekend, killing long people in the night, then move on to killing again until I end up with a dozen people over the weekend. The Chronicle published his third of the telegram on page 4 the next day edition, an article printed alongside the quote, Vallejo Police Chief Zach E. as saying, "We are not satisfied that the letters was written by a murderer, and requested writing, sent a second letter with more facts to prove his identity. The threatened murders did not happen, and all 3 parts were eventually published." On August 7th of 1969, another letter was received at the San Francisco Examiner with solution, "Dear editor, this is the Zodiac speaking. This was the first time the killer had used this name for identification. The letter was a response to Chief Hilsel's request for more details that would prove he had killed Friday, Jensen, and Fermi, and the Zodiac included details about the murders that had not yet been released to the public, as well as a message to the police that when they crack his code, they will have me. Author Serena Ross explained that the episode paragraph in this letter reference to the Arthur Hitchcock present episode museum piece. The attachment of the light to a gun was a plot element which Zodiac adopted. The episode dialogue also contains the phrase "the most dangerous game." Zodiac was both referring and acting out Hitchcock's story elements. On August 8th, 1969, Donald and Betty Harmon of Salina, California, cracked the 408 symbol photograph. It contained a misspelled mention which the killer seemed to reference the most dangerous game. The author also said that he was collecting slaves for his afterlife. No name appears in the code test, and the killer said that he would not give away his identity because it would slow down or stop his slave collection. On September 27th of 1969, Pacific Union College student Brian Harmer and Cecilia Schaefer were picking a lake Berniers on a small island connected by a sand split to Twin Oak Ridge. A white man about 5 feet 11 inches, weighed more than 170 pounds, approached them wearing a black externity type hood with click-on glasses over the eye, holes in a bit-like device on his chest that had a white thread 3 by 3 inch cross circle symbol on it. It approached them with a gun, which Harnold believed to be a .45. The hoodman claimed to be an escaped convict from a jail with two-word name in either Colorado or Montana. A police officer later inferred that the man had been referring to a jail in Deer Lodge, Montana, where he had killed a guard and suspiciously stole a car, explaining that he now needed their car and money to travel to Mexico because the vehicle that he had been driving was too hot. The killer had brought a pre-cut length of plastic clothes sleeve and told Schaefer to tie up Harlan before he tied her up. The killer checked and threatened Harlan bound. After discovering that Schaefer had bound Harlan's hands loosely, Harlan intentionally believed this event to be bizarre robbery, but this man drew a knife and stabbed them both repeatedly, Harman suffering 6 and Schaefer 10 wounds in the process. The killer then hiked 500 yards back to Knoxville Road, drew the cross circle symbol on Harman's car door with a black felt tip pen and wrote beneath it, Vehicle 12-2068, 7469, September 27, 69, 6:30 by knife. At 7:40 p.m., the killer called the Napa County Sheriff's Office from a pay telephone to report the last crime. The caller first stated to the operator that he wished to report a murder, not a double murder, before stating that he had been the perpetrator of the crime. The phone was found still off the hook minutes later at the Napa Car Wash on Main Street in Napa by KVO radio report by Stanley, only a few blocks from the sheriff's office, yet 27 miles from the crime scene. Detectives were able to lift a still wet palm print from the telephone but were never able to match it to any suspect. After hearing the victim's screams for help, a man and his son who were fishing in nearly Cove discovered the victims and summoned to help by connecting park rangers. Napa County Sheriff's deputies David Collins and Ray Land were the first law enforcement officers to arrive at the crime scene. Schaefer was conscious when Collins arrived, providing him with the detailed description of the attacker. Harman and Schaefer were taken to Queen of the Valley Hospital in Napa by an ambulance. Schaefer collapsed into a coma during transport and never regained consciousness. She died 2 days later, but Harman survived to recount his tale to the press. Napa County detectives and Ken Early, who was assigned to the case from the outset, worker on solving the crime unit until his retirement from the department in 1987. 2 weeks later, on October 11th of 1969, a white male passenger entered the cab driven by Paul Strain at the intersection of Mason and Gray Street, one block west from Union Square, in San Francisco, requesting to be driven to Washington and Maple Street in Paradiso Heights. For unreasons known, the street drove en bloc past Napa to Cherry Street. The passenger then shot Steen once in the head with the 9mm handgun, took Stein's wallet and car keys, and tore away a section of Steen's blood-stained shirt. The perpetrator was observed by 3 teenagers across the street at 9:55 p.m. and they phoned the police while the crime was in process. They observed a man whipping the cab down before walking away towards the Paradiso, one block to the north. 2 blocks from the crime scene, patrol officers Don Fork and Eric Selm, responding to call, observed a white man walking along the sidewalk east on Jackson Street and stepping out in a straightaway leading up to the front yard of one of those homes in the north side of the street. The encounter lasted only 5 to 10 seconds. Falk estimated the white male predestined to be 35 to 45 years old, 5'10" tall, with a crew cut similar to but slightly older than the description provided by the teenagers. He observed the killer in and out of Stein's cab. The teenagers described the suspect to be 25 to 30 years old, with the crew cut extending approximately 5 feet 8 inches to 5 feet and 9 inches tall. However, the police radio dispatch had alerted officers to look for a black suspect, so Falk and Selman drove past the perpetrator without stopping. The mixed up in description remains unexplained. A search. Give me 1 second, guys. Explained search ensued, but not suspect were found. Sorry if y'all hear that guy. Sorry. So the mixed up description remains unexplained. A search ensued, but no suspect were found. This was the last official confirmed murder by the Zodiac Killer. The Stein murders was intentionally believed to be a routine robbery that has escalated in homicidal violence. However, on October 13, the San Francisco Chronicle received a new letter from Zodiac that claimed credit for the killing and contained a torn section of Stein's bodily shirt to prove the fact. 3 teens witnesses worked with police artists to prepare a composed sketch of Stein Killer. A few days later, the police artists returned, working with the witness to prepare a second composed sketch. Detectives Bill Armstrong and David Toshi were assigned to this case. The San Francisco Police Department investigated as an estimate 2,000 suspects over a period of years. On October 14th of 1969, the coroner received another letter from the Zodiac. This time contained a stash of Paul's strange shirt. Tell the proof he was the killer. It also included a threat about killing school children on a school bus. To do the Zodiac wrote, just shot out the front tire and the pic of the kiddies as they come bouncing out. At 2 p.m. on October 20, 1969, someone claiming to be the Zodiac called the Oklahoma Police Department, demanding that one of 2 primary lawyers, F. Lee Bailey or Melvin Bailey, appear on AM San Francisco to talk show on KJOTV host by Jimmy Dummer. Bailey was not available, but Bailey did appear on the show. Dummer appealed to the viewers to keep the lines open. Someone claimed to be the Zodiac call several times, and Bailey asked the caller for less minions' names, and the caller picked Sam. The caller said he would not reveal his true identity as he was afraid of being sent to the gas chamber. Then California capital punishment meant. Bailey arranged a reduce to meet the caller outside a shop on Mission Street in Daly City, but not one arrived. The call was later traced back to the patient in a mental institution. Investigators concluded that this man was not the Zodiac. On November 8th of 1969, the Zodiac mailed a card with another photogram consisting of 340 characters. The Seabreeze Doobie C little line 340 remained unsolved for 51 years. On December 5th, 2020, It was dis- disheartened by an international team of private citizens, including America's software engineer David, Australian mathematic Sam, and Belgian programmer Jarl, and the decrepit message that Zodiac denied being the Sam who spoke on AM San Francisco explained that he was not afraid of the gas chamber because it will send me to paradise. Um, all the sooner. The team submitted their findings to the Federal Bureau of Investigation, which verified the discovery. The FBI stated that the decoded message gave no further clues to define the Zodiac. On November 9th of 1969, the Zodiac mailed a 7-page letter stating the two policemen stopped and actually spoke with him 3 minutes after he shot Stan. Excerpts from the letter were published in the Chronicle on November 12th, including the Zodiac claimed that the same day Officer Don Fook wrote a memo explaining what had happened on the night of Stan's murder on December 20 of 1969, exactly 1 year after the murders of David and Betty. The Zodiac mailed a letter to Bailey that included another stretch of Stan's shirt. The Zodiac said he wanted to Bell to help him. Various authors speculated at the time of the killing that other murders and attacks may have been the work of the Zodiac, but none have been confirmed. Local historian Christine suggests that the Zodiac may have murdered a cab driver, Ray Davis, in April of 1962 in Oceanside, California, and on April 9, 1962, the day before the murder, individual believed to be the culprit had phoned the Oceanside Police Department and told them, "I'm going to put something in here in Oceanside, and you'll never be able to figure it out." A few days after the murder, the police received another call from who presumed to be the same individual, in which he told police details of the murder and said he would kill a bus driver next. Following Harmstone research, Oceanside police announced that they were looking into a possibly connection between the murder and the Zodiac. Bill Baker of Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office postulated that the 1963 murders of young couple in North Santa Barbara County may have been the work of the Zodiac killing. On June 4th of 1963, high school senior Robert and his fiancée Linda were shot dead on a beach near Lompoc, having skipped school that day for senior dish day. Police believe that the assailant attempted to bind the victims, but when they fled themselves and attempted to flee, the killer shot them repeatedly in the back and chest with a .22 caliber weapon. The killer then placed their bodies at a small shack and then tied unsuccessfully to burn the sturge to the ground. I know this is this is a whole dude. But they had senior dish date back then? I didn't know that. Because we did it when we went to school, but I didn't know it was that. They did it back then. I didn't think. Sorry. Cherry Joe Betts, 18, stabbed to death and nearly decapitated on October 30, 1966 at Riverside City College in Riverside. Betts' possible connection to the Zodiac only appears 4 years after her murder, when San Francisco Chronicle reporter Paul Harvey received a tip regarding similarities between the Zodiac killings as the consequences surrounding Betts' death. Kaelin Jones, 22, allegedly abducted on March 22 of 1970 on Highway 132 near I-580 in an area west of Modesto. Jones escaped from the car of a man who drove her and her infant daughter around the area between Stockton and Peterson from approximately 1.5 hours. Joanna Anna Les, 25, last seen on September 6 of 1970 in Staley, Nevada. A postcard bearing and investigating for Forest Pines Communications paste on the back was received at the Chronicle on March 22 of 1971. No evidence has been uncovered to connect Les' disappearance with the Zodiac killing. On October 30 of 1966, an 18-year-old student at Riverside City College, Cherry, spent the evening at the campus library annex until close at night. Neighbors report hearing a scream around 10:30 p.m. Bats was found dead the next morning, a short distance from the library, between two abandoned houses laid to be demolished for campus renovations. The wires in her Volkswagen distribute cab had been pulled out. She was barely beaten and stabbed to death. A man's Timex watch with the torn wristband was found nearly. The watch had stopped at 12:24, but police believe that the attack had occurred much earlier. A month later, on November 29th of 1966, nearly and dedicated typewriting letters were mailed to the Riverside Police Department and the Riverside Press Enterprise, titled The Confession. The author claimed responsibility for Bat's murder, providing details of the crime that were not released to the public. The author warned that Bats is not the first and she will not be the last. On December of 1966, a poem was discovered carved into the bottom side of a desktop in the Riverside City College Library, titled Sick of Living, Unwilling to Die. The poem language and handwriting resembled that of the Zodiac letters. It was signed with what were assumed to be the initials RH. During the 1970 investigation, Sherwood, California's top question documents examiner, expressed his opinion that the poem was written by the Zodiac. On April 30th of 1967, exactly 6 months after the Bates murders, Bates' father Joseph and the Press Enterprise and the Riverside Police all received nearly identical letters and handwriting scroll that Press Enterprise and police copies read: Bats had to die, there will be more, with a small scribble at the bottom that resembled the letter Z. Joseph Bat's copy read, she had to die, there will be more, this time without the Z signature. In August 2021, the Riverside Police Department Homicide Cold Case Unit announced that the author of the handwriting letters anonymously connected investigator in 2016. It was undefined via DNA analyzed in 2020. He admitted to the corporance was a default ox and apologized, explaining that he had been a troubled teenager and wrote the letters as a means of seeking attention. Investigators confirmed that the author was not the Zodiac. In March of 1971, 5 months after Arby's article linking the Zodiac to the Riverside murder, the Zodiac mailed a letter to Los Angeles Times. In the letter, he credited the police instead of Arby's for discovering his Riverside activity, but they're only finding the easy ones. There are held a lot more down there. The connection between Sherry and Riverside and the Zodiac remains uncertain. Paul Harvey in the Riverside Police Department maintained that the Bats homicide was not committed by the Zodiac, but did not consent that some of Bats' letter may have been his work to claim credit falsely. On March 22 of 1971, a postcard to a Chronicle addressed to Paul Harvey and believed to be from the Zodiac appeared to claim responsibility for the disappearing Donna Lass in September 6 of 1970, made from College of Advertisements in magazine learning the feature scenes from advertisement or force paints condominiums. In text, Sierra Club sought victim 12, peeked through the pines, past Lake Tahoe areas, and around the snow. The Zodiac cross circle symbol was in both the place of usually return addresses in the lower right section of the front face the postcard. Les was a nurse at the Sarah Tahoe Hotel and Casino. She worked until about 2 a.m. on September 16th of 1970, treating her last patient at 1:40. Later that same day, both Les' employer and her landlord received a phone call from unknown male falsely claiming that Les had left town because of family emergency. Les was never found. What appeared to be gravesite was discovered near the Claire Tampa Lodge in Northern California on Sierra Club property. No evidence has been uncovered to define the contact in Les disappearing with the Zodiac sign killing. On the night of March 22 of 1970, Kaelin Jones was driving from San Benito to Petaluma to visit her mother. She was 7 months pregnant and had her her 10-month-old daughter beside her while heading west on Highway 132 near Modesto. A car behind her began honking his horn and flashing in headlights. She pulled off the road and stopped. The man in the car parked behind her approached her car, stated that he observed that her right rear wheel was wobbling and offered to tighten the lug nuts. After finishing his work, the man drove off, yet when Jones pulled over to re-enter the highway, the wheel almost immediately came off the car. The man returned, offering to drive her to the nearest gas station for help. She and her daughter climbed into this car. During the ride, the car passed service station, but the man did not stop. For about 90 minutes, he drove back and forth around the back road near Tracy. When Jones asked why he was not stopping, he would change the subject. When driver finally stopped in the station, Jones jumped out with her daughter and hid in a field. The driver searched for her using a flashlight, telling her that he would not hurt her before eventually giving up. Unable to find her, he got back into the car and drove off. Jones hitched a ride to the police station in Peterson. When Jones gave her statement to the sergeant on duty, she noticed the police compiled scratch of Paul staining killer and recognized him as the man who had abducted her and her child. Sorry, guys. Fearing that he may return to kill them at all, the sergeant had Jones wait in the dark in nearly Mill's restaurant, where when her car was found, it had been gutted and torched. Most accounts say that the man threatened to kill Jones and her daughter while driving them around, but at least one police report deputies that Jones' account to Paul Harvey of the Chronicle indicates that her doctor left his car and searched for her in the dark with flashing. However, in one report she made to the police, she stated that he did not leave the vehicle. There is no conscience in the number of people Zodiac attacked or the years in which the attacks took place. The attacks on Kaelin Jones and Donna Les is, if attributable to the Zodiac, suggests a new MO. The target would be individual females rather than couples, and they would be abducted. Many of them Santa Rosa hitchhiker murders exhibited these themes and have long been considered possible Zodiac crimes. So this strangulation of some of these victims is in line with the Zodiac. On October 1970, claimed to be killed by rope. In 1986, Robert published a list of 49 confirmed impossible Zodiac targets. The list includes some of the Santa Rosa's hitchhiker murders victims. Sometimes Arthur claims that the Zodiac should be a suspect for some high-profile unsolved homicide, which are not currently considered Zodiac crimes. While such claims are unpopular, John documents similarities between the murder of John Benet and the Zodiac action. The fake ransom note contained a Zodiac killing misspelling, a reference to crime films. One of these films was Dirty Harry, which Zodiac inspired. Cameron also wrote that John Benet told a neighbor that she would meet Santa Claus on the night that she was later killed. Zodiac did not wear a costume at Lake Baster and claimed to use disguises. If Cameron was correct, Zodiac would have killed over the span of a decade. The Zodiac continued to commit with authorities for the remainder of 1970 via letters and getting cards to the press. In letter postmarked April 20 of 1970, the Zodiac wrote, "My name is," followed by 13-character Siberi that has not been solved to this day. The Zodiac went on to state that he was not responsible for the arrest and bombing of police station in San Francisco, referring to the February 18th of 1970 death of Sergeant Brian McCall 2 days after the bombing at a park station, Golden Gate Park, but added there are more glory to killing cop than a sick, because a cop can shoot back. The letter included a telegram of a bomb that Zodiac claimed that he would use to blow up a school bus. At the bottom of the telegram, he wrote that Zodiac sign equal 10 and then SFPD equals 0. The Zodiac sent greeting card postmarked on April 28th of 1970 to the Chronicle, Written on the card was, "I hope you enjoy yourself when I have my blast," followed by the Zodiac cross circle signature on the back of the card. The Zodiac threatened to use the buzz bomb soon, lest the newspaper publish the full detail that he had written. He also wanted to start seeing people wearing some nice Zodiac buttons. In a letter postmarked June 26 of 1970, the Zodiac stated that he was upset that he did not see people wearing Zodiac bottoms. He wrote, "I shot a man sitting in a parked car with a .38. The Zodiac was possibility referring to the murder of 25-year-old Sergeant Richard Redding on 1 week earlier at 5:25 a.m. on June 19th. Rich was reading a parking ticket in his squad car when an ex-alien unrelated to the traffic violation shot him in the head with a .38 caliber pistol through the closed driver's side window. Rachel died 15 hours later. The San Francisco Police Department denies that the Zodiac was involved. The murder remains unsolved. Unconcluded with the letter was a Philly 66 road map in the Francisco Bay Area. On the image of Mountain Diablo, the Zodiac had drawn a cross circle similar to those from the previous Copper Prentice. At the top of the cross circle, he placed a 0, a 3, 6, and a 9. The company instructions state that the 0 was to be said as Meg N. The letter also include a 30-tail letter zippers that killed Claymwood in conjunction with the code that lead to the location of a bomb that he had buried and set to detonate in the fall. The zipper was never located and the Allegan bomb was never located. The killer signed the note with a 0 -12 and the SFPD -0. In the letter to the Chronicle postmarked July 24th, 170, the Zodiac took credit for Kaelin Jones' abduction 4 months after the accident. And July 26, 1970, the letter the Zodiac phrased a song from the Mikiado, adding his own lyrics about making a little list of the ways in which he planned to torture his slaves in paradise. The letter was signed with a large extender cross circle symbol in a new score, 13, SFPD = 0. A final note at the bottom of the letter stated, P.S. The empty Diablo code concerned radians inches long, the radius. In 1991, a close extermination of the radium hit by the Zodiac research gathering pen led the discovery that a radiant angle, when placed over the map per Zodiac instruction, point to the location of 2 Zodiac attacks. On October 7th of 1970, the Chronicle received a 3x5-inch card signed by the Zodiac with the 0, with the circle and the plus sign, and a small cross reportedly drawn with the blood. The card message was formed bypassing the words and letters from an edition of the Chronicle, and 13 holes were punched across the card. Inspector Osterman and Tashi agreed that it was highly probable that the card had been sent by the Zodiac. And that is the crime, the story of a Zodiac killer that we don't know to this day who he is. I have hope that we will. Hold on, guys. I'm like, my mouth is so dry. I actually left a lot out because this video would have been longer. But this video I didn't want to make it that long, because it's a lot of information and it's just a lot of stuff. But I don't think we will ever know who he is. I hope we do, but then because it's been so long, I don't think we will know. One thing that I think the person is it has to be someone who was a loner, who was picked on in high school, who his parents never cared for him, who was craving attention, and the only way he was craving it it was to commit these type of murders and send letters. And I think because I don't know what other serial killer did this. There was another Dennis Rader. Dennis Rader did the same thing. He would send letters to the police department. He will call the news um, department. He will say, he basically will tell the cops where the body is. And it's kind of the same thing with the Zodiac sign. The Zodiac Killer. He he wanted attention. He wanted these bodies to be found. And I think that's some of the bodies that were found. And like, I don't think he was like with the abduction girl. I don't think he did it. The only reason I say I don't think it had nothing to do with him, because if you think about the other victims, he killed them right away. Like, he didn't. I don't. Why would he pick up a woman and a child, and ride with them for like 40 seconds and not kill them? When the other two couples, the other couples that he killed, he did it quick. He didn't take his time. He didn't drive around with them. He didn't get to know them. He just did it and left. So I don't think he did those. That's why I think that those cases, I don't think had nothing to do with it. But I just think this person had to be that type of person. That it was bullied in school. He grew up with his parents not paying attention to him. He was a loner. He didn't have no friends. He craved the attention, and I think the only way he knew how to get the attention was by killing people, and by writing letters. And I also think, because he was killing couples, I think there must have been a relationship that he was in, and the girl left them for a certain reason. I don't know. The whole slave thing, I don't understand it. They say he was a white man. But I don't know. I don't understand that whole slave thing. That one to me is really hard to understand. And I don't know what made him think that he was just gonna be in paradise. No, bad people do not go to paradise. They go somewhere else, sir. But that's on you. Don't come at me if you're already dead. Do not come at me, Zodiac. I'm just saying. I don't think you're in paradise if you're still dead. I'm assuming you are dead. The whole slave thing, I don't get it. Would I get it if he was a black person? Maybe, but I don't want to assume that he was. I don't understand how so many people were giving so many different, like, there were not every person was consistent with the way he looked. There were so many different people that were saying, oh, he looked 25 to 30, or no, he looked like he was 30 to 35. It was not consistent. So I don't know. It's just, that one threw me off too. Like, it was so much consistent that people were telling that he looked so different, but it was the same person, but people were explaining him different, if that makes any sense. But yeah, I think he was a loner. I think he was picked on in school. I think he was that little kid in school that nobody wanted to be a friend with. I think his parents did not pay attention to him. They just dealt with him because, what else could they do? And that is sad to say. He probably had a relationship that really hurt him, and that's why he was killing couples. I don't think he had nothing to do with the John Benet case. I really don't think he had nothing to do with it, because serial killers tend to commit different crimes, but they also tend to stay with different. So when it comes to sort like Ted Bundy, he killed female after female after female after female after female. I think one of his victims was a child. I think it was like his last victim before he got caught was a child, and I think that was the only child that he killed, but it was all females. Dennis Rader, he killed family. and he killed, he killed kids, he killed family. He did not care. He killed everybody. But he stayed around his area. Um, Jeff Dunham, he killed man, and it was only gay man. Um, the oh my god, I can't remember his name. The Green River Killer. He was killing women and dumping them. He was killing prostitutes and dumping them in the river, and that's what he kept doing. He didn't change his tactic. He didn't change his killings, and so that's what I'm saying is, when it comes to serial killers, they don't change unless they think they're about to get caught. Then they change the way they kill, or they change the type of victim they kill, because they're like, oh crap, I'm about to get caught, let me throw them off. And that's what they do. And I don't think the Zodiac did that. I think he wanted to keep killing couples. And if there is more unsolved killings, I think the cops should be looking at couples unsolved killings, because like I said, this man probably did have a relationship and a girl broke his heart, and he was heartbroken, and it was, he just, it could be that he hated seeing couples happy and he ended up killing couples. And I think that's what they should be looking at. I don't think he killed none of these singles females that were out that did end up losing their life. I don't think he adopted this lady with her daughter. I don't think it had nothing to do with him. Even if he did admit to it, there are serial killers that have admitted to crimes that they did not commit, just because they want that power. They crave the power. Um, but I mean, I hope one day we could, if they did collect good evidence back then, they still have that good evidence and it's still good today. I hope that we could, DNA could solve this and hopefully find out who did it. I would be surprised if I am right about this, but I do think, me in my opinion, I think he is someone that craved attention because he didn't get it at school, or he didn't get it at home, or he could be someone that, had a relationship and a girl broke his heart, and he's like, you know what, if I cannot have a relationship, you not fixing to be a relationship either. I don't know about the whole slave thing. I don't get. But if y'all, but let me know who y'all think it is, guys. Do you think who do you think it could be? Let me know in the comments. I would love to know. I will see y'all Friday with a new video.